Hi guys, welcome back to a new episode, a long overdue episode. I know it's been a while since we made the last one. I do want to clarify a few things. I'm still designing vehicles for land, sea, and air, as well as a myriad of other cutting-edge innovative products. We're still trying to make these YouTube videos as good as we can, as professional as we can for all of you at home. And if I'm honest, it's quite a bit to juggle between doing my professional work and the YouTube channel. So I've been reflecting over the future of the YouTube channel the last few weeks. And do I wrap it up and call it a day? Or do I find a new way to approach the videos? One that doesn't take so much of my time. The reality is I really do love making these videos. And I love the community that we're building, this feeling that we're all interested in design. And I'm putting it out there for you guys, and it's not something that I'm willing to let go of easily. So the feeling of these episodes is going to have to change ever so slightly. So what I'm going to have to leave behind is doing all these redesigns of these vehicles, because that takes quite a bit of time, quite a bit of hours of research and thinking. But that's not to say that I won't do it on some very special occasions. There are some cars out there that do need that kind of input. What I want to get across is this unfiltered stream of consciousness, this first gut reaction when we look at these rolling sculptures. Without further ado, let's kick off this week's episode with a real exciting one, hot off the presses, the absolutely new Ferrari Daytona SP3. Now looking at this car as a first impression from the front three-quarter, front-ish look, I can see a definite nod to the historic racing period of Ferrari from the 60s and 70s, most notably the wins they had at the Daytona 24 Hours. And you can see a bit of those references in this car here. Now, you look at it, I'm seeing it from here, there's a bunch of mix of curves, so that kind of combination around the vehicle is making it seem like it's quite dynamic from a first impression. Now, looking at it from the front, it's got fenders, wings, front end, straight out of the design language of the Ferrari 512S, maybe the 712 Can-Am car they had. And you've got these very slim LED style headlamps on there with almost like an eyelid feature. You've got a retracting cover that just comes over those headlights there. Then you have these mirrors mounted on the fenders, on the wings as we call them here in England. That is kind of reminiscent of the endurance racers back then. Now moving back towards the actual cab, what we call a cab forward stance, cab forward portion, we can see how the whole greenhouse where the passenger and driver are sitting, that's kind of shoved to the front. Then you have this extreme wraparound glass. That is really pushing the limits of glass technology. Beautiful butterfly doors to give it that dramatic ingress, egress. You've got this extremely, almost sensually pinched waist. And then as you wrap around towards the rear, you're going to start seeing these very distinctive rear end, at least for today. It looks like horizontal blades, you know, and some people might think it's a Testarossa. I don't feel so much. I mean, you can obviously refer to a Testarossa influenced design. For me, I remember a car from Pininfarina, the 1968 Ferrari 250 PS concept car, and that seems to be much more influencing the rear end design of this car. So overall in the concept of this vehicle, you can see that it really does seem to be design driven. There's a bit of a mixture of modernity and the past. Ferrari has a great design team, and Flavio Manzoni is doing a wonderful job leading them. But again, here's the thing for me. This car definitely is striking. It's brave. It's daring, it's bold, but is it beautiful? Are we going to look back in 50 to 100 years and say this is the epitome of Ferrari design? I don't see this car as being beautiful. Now, why do I say that? Because there are a few elements on this car that seem to detract from that element of simple, beautiful design. It's almost a cacophony of different things happening all over the car. When you design a car, the less people working on the car as designers, the better. Has been always my experience. Starting out with the front, the issue I have with the front is that front grille. That shape is quite undistinctive or unrecognizable almost for a Ferrari. The Covered headlights, very interesting, very innovative, very technologically advanced. But what bugs me a little bit on that is that cover on the headlight. Now, I would have much preferred for that headlight cover to extend all the way down, cutting off the headlamp completely. So basically you couldn't look at half open, half closed eyes. They're falling asleep. Zzz. And then you have your running lamp underneath it, which identifies your car at night, makes it visible. But also that running light is quite boring. If I was driving in the opposite direction at night and I saw that running light, I wouldn't be able to tell you what car it was. The other thing that disturbs me slightly from a design point of view are those strakes on the outer corners of the bumper just below the headlights leading into the front fender well. Those strakes there, as much as we say they're there for a purpose, no car would ever need that many strakes. So I think it could be calmed down quite a bit and look a little bit more elegant, a little bit more confident. On the top, at the apex of the fender, front fender, you'll see these fender mounted mirrors, which is not so normal today, but in the endurance racers of the past, they did mount them there. And typically they would need to be smaller, but these are absolutely monsters of mirrors for me in that area right there, to see a huge mirror mounted on the fenders. But then you get this nice shape of the fender, very beautiful, very tense front fender diving down into this intake that leads into the airbox on the door. Now that's quite complicated to actually not only design it that way, but to produce it that way. But what a beautiful way to get air into the engine there. This is just the most efficient way of getting air into something, is just ram it in there, and they've done it very beautifully here. The other thing that is absolutely stunning is this wraparound windscreen that they have on the car. I absolutely love curved windscreens. There's also the Ferrari shield on the door. Doesn't have to be there, but I think it really makes a Ferrari a Ferrari. It gives you that pride of ownership when you see that shield. It's very special. Now, as we move to the rear of the car, again, what I really do like on this is the massive clamshell on the back. That's quite expensive to produce. And then we have that beautiful heat shield, that part above the engine where they're pulling out some of the heat from the engine bay. Very beautiful, very detailed, beautiful design. Now, if we move directly to the rear of the car, this is where I have my biggest issue. If you're driving behind this car at night, you're 100 meters behind this car, would you recognize it as a Ferrari by its light signature? And this seems to me a bit like an easy way out and not putting enough attention into detail. I would much, much prefer to see round taillights, even on a modern Ferrari, as this one is. Those round taillights, two single ones, double ones, whatever, but they should be in there. I sure wish they would have put a little bit more emphasis or detailed design into that design of the taillight. I don't think it needs that many ribs back there. I think you could say or justify perhaps that it needs one or two of these wings to control the airflow, but more than that is going a little bit over the top. This car is the last V12, the most powerful V12 non-aspirated engine that Ferrari has ever produced. And you wouldn't know it if you looked at those tailpipes. But in general, again, if you stand back and look at this car, the first time I saw it this morning when I looked at it, I went, wow. But does it hold itself together completely? Not 100% in my book. It's still a stunning Ferrari. Man, would I love to have, I would absolutely love to have this car, but I don't see it as being the ultimate beautiful Ferrari as we know Ferraris. I do want to speak briefly about the interior. I love the seat design. It gives you that feeling that you're in a single seat racer because you're sitting fixed in the seat. The instrumentation, very special on this one. It kind of looks like it's floating. The instrumentation is in a pod that looks like it's floating slightly above the carbon fiber structure there. Another detail that I've noticed on this car by staring at it is something that you might not have noticed, but is the door handle. And it's probably positioned in one of the most awkward places for somebody to open the door. You have to reach down to, in an area which we call is kind of the dirty air area of a vehicle. The door handle position on this car, why it's there, very difficult to say why, but it's not in the most convenient area to place a door handle, that's for sure. So, in conclusion, how are we going to rate this car? Each element in itself is stunning, beautiful, but you need to have that sort of restraint that allows that car to speak the same language as you walk around it. It's lacking one cohesive design approach, and I think that's what makes a car look especially professional, especially enduring in terms of design, better than the 296 and probably a little bit under the Ferrari Roma. So for the Daytona, I would give this car a rating of a 9. Let's leave it at a 9. I think some people might be upset, but other people might understand. A Ferrari, I love Ferraris. I don't want to go into justifying my love for Ferraris. I just wish the car was a little bit calmer, and in that fact, I think it would have been even more exciting and more sensual, more beautiful than it is in its current state. There you have it. That's my review of the Ferrari Daytona. Again, as always, let me know what you think. Let me know your opinions, good or bad. They're great to read because that is what we're here for, to stimulate the conversation, stimulate the opinion, the diversity of opinion. So be sure to do that. Be sure to subscribe so that we can keep putting out video content on the design of some of the most beautiful cars in the world, some of the most desirable cars in the world, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next episode.